Start recording. Okay. So my recording is on right now. So, um, so this since this is a very important topic for all of us, I believe that this was necessary to cover, and everything related to lighting is something that we deal with a high percentage of a project. So imagine 3 hours of your life around this. Lights going dim, window blinds closing in, AC turning on to a comfortable temperature, and your TV turning on to your favorite channel. But all this with just one click of a button. Uh, this we all know that this is only possible if it's a smart home. So, lighting being such a critical and central part of our of all of our projects, it's important to understand how big of a market that we are catering to. Um, so, Indian smart home market is expected to reach about $6 billion by 2022, which is quite a sizable number. International numbers are bigger than this definitely, but Indian market itself is about to reach 6 billion in just less than 2 years now. Lighting automation takes about 60 to 90% of all the projects at most that we do, and this is something that um, is so critical to all of us. And the impact that lighting automation does is, it has it has a huge impact on the lifestyle of the homeowner, and also the perception of luxury that our clients and customers will have. So it's an extremely important and a serious, part of automation that we all know. So today's agenda, what are we going to cover? Types of dimming technologies, manufacturer implementations of these technologies. So this will give a little insights into all the implement the a very high level implementation of these technologies, effects of each technologies on line noise, harmonics, etc., and ideal applications of these technologies. What are we not going to cover? Implementation of protocol-based digital technologies like DALI, DMX, etc., and driver implementations of these dimming technologies that I have mentioned. Um, that we are going to cover. So, just to quickly get a recap on what technologies we use typically. Our dimming technologies are typically broken down or can be broken down into two types of dimming. One is analog dimming, which includes phase cut or phase dimming, and two types of phase dimming technologies are leading edge and lagging edge, which is also known as trailing edge. And second type of analog dimming is 0-10 volts or 10 volts analog dimming. So these are the two major types of analog dimming technologies which we are going to cover in this presentation. Uh, to mention and also to understand what all technologies are there in the market apart from analog dimming, I wanted to put these couple of points here. That DALI is a protocol-based dimming technology that is there in the market. It's really to do with the protocol as well as DMX and any other non-analog based dimming technologies that either people have created proprietary or they are part of a larger association or alliance. Um, so I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes here at this slide before we get deep down into the analog dimming side of it. Phase cut and analog dimming is as category called as analog dimming. It's like you are your dimmer is actually physically turning the power going to your driver or your appliance. That means it is cutting off or modulating the power that is going to the driver. Analog is not really cutting off power, but it's communicating to so 0, 10 and 110 volts analog is not really cutting power, but it's actually modulating a signal which is still analog. Versus a protocol based dimming. In protocol based dimming, really the dimmer communicates to the driver in a way which is very similar to a spoken language. So a spoken language, DALI is a digital language. It's a protocol. DMX is a protocol. It's a digital language. Hence, these are something that do not much uh, uh, not have much dynamics from the implementation on the dimmer side. This is completely if you can talk DALI through your dimmer, you can actually also sense your motion sensor values and so many other values. It's not pertaining to only dimming. Same goes with DMX. DMX works with 485 RS485 over RS485 protocol. So our presentation is going to be limited to analog dimming and how it is implemented. So first type of the phase cut dimming is called leading edge dimming, and it's very important for all of us to know how it's really done. So the manufacturer implementation, all that you see on your right hand side, is not going to be the actual circuit, but it's going to be a representation of the circuit. And this is something that I want all of you guys to keep in mind. An actual circuit is much more complicated, much more has many more components. So this is a very simplified um, mm, uh, diagram for implementation. So on the left hand side, we see an AC sine wave which oscillates. So these are two full 360 degrees of complete cycles of a sine wave, where we say one cycle means something that starts from zero, crosses zero once, and again reaches zero. And then between the first two zero crossing, when the AC wave goes positive, we call it the positive half cycle or the first half cycle. And the second that goes between zero crossing and the second third zero crossing is a negative half cycle, uh, or the second half cycle. So the way if we have to implement a phase cut leading edge dimming, this is a sine wave which is if you measure anywhere between line and neutral, you will see this sine wave. If you pass this sine wave through any appliance, you're going to see the appliance, let's say incandescent bulb, illuminating to full 100%. You'll see a fan to be moving at 100% speed. So how do we get dimming from this, right? So what do we do as manufacturers? We actually have a microcontroller, and a microcontroller has a gate driving circuit, which drives the gate of a triac or a solid state relay, as many of us refer to it. Why is it called a solid state relay? Because there are no moving parts like a mechanical relay, which is in which a plate, a metal plate, actually moves between two leads. This is actually everything is a silicon based you know the solid state relay, wherein movement of ions and electrons, basically positive, negative, really act as the switch. So when I have to turn on, let's say, an appliance, I really turn on the triac so that it starts conducting. And a triac is an appliance which works in both directions. So my bad, the this is a this is not the actual what do you call it, um, diagram of a track. I'll update it after the presentation. I just realized it now. And what are we doing? Basically, if I have to get 75% dimming, So if I want to get 100% the load to be on, I just turn on the gate of the track 100% of the time. So I'm going to get this full wave passing through my load, and I'm going to have a load which is completely illuminated. Now let's see how do we do as manufacturers, how do we really implement a 75% dimming. So in 75% dimming, as a manufacturer, after the zero crossing, we wait, after each zero crossing, we wait 25% time after zero crossing, and then trigger the triac gate to turn on. And how does that happen really? After 25%, the triac is triggered by a pulse, and the appliance is illuminated only 75%. Only 75% of the AC power is actually transferred to the driver, and the driver turns on the LED at 75% illumination. So I'll just again run through the I'll just again run through the animation.
ఫోన్ చేస్తానే
Hi,
అది
can
చేస్తానా
mute their mics, please? So yeah, so what's going to happen is, as a manufacturer, we
చెప్తాలే
from the controller, we trigger a gate pulse which actually turns on after 25% time has passed from zero crossing. So what happens is, once the track turns on, the remaining 75% of the wave passes to through the load. The property of a track is that after every zero crossing, the track turns off. So it's a device that likes to stay off in every half cycle. So now on my screen, you can see 4 half cycles. So every half cycle, and this continues for an AC wave, this is infinite, right? So for every half cycle, at the beginning, the track likes to stay off. Until and unless we give a gate pulse, the track does not turn on. So if I want to implement a 75% dimming, I wait for 25% of time after zero crossing, and I trigger the track, so it conducts for the remaining 75% of the AC wave of that half cycle. Same goes for the negative half cycle. In the negative half cycle, the track conducts in the opposite direction. That's why we get a perfect AC conduction, but which is triggered only after the zero crossing. So similarly, this triggering of track continues over every half cycle across the operation of the load. If someone wants to turn it off, the track is just not triggered. That's how the that's how we implement 0% or off. And if we want to implement a 100% on, we trigger the track right at the zero crossing, so the entire AC wave passes. Now, just for comparison, let's go and see how do we implement a 25% dimming. So in a 25% dimming, what really happens is we wait for 75% time after zero crossing and then trigger track gate to turn on, which means that we are going to wait till 75% of the wave, and we are going to block the 75% of the AC wave going to the appliance or going to the driver, and we are going to only pass the remaining 25% of the wave. So this is how basically a gate trigger pulse will come at every passing of 75% of time from zero crossing, and that's how the load is only going to be illuminated to 25% dimming. Now, how does this really look from a timing perspective? We discussed about 2 scenarios. One was 75%, one is 25%. From a 25%, if you want to simply implement the wait time, you schedule for a 7.5 millisecond wait time after each zero crossing, and then trigger the gate. Then the track automatically, so the track turns on after you trigger the gate and automatically turns off at the zero crossing. If you want to implement 75% dimming, you wait for 2.5 milliseconds, and then after zero crossing, and then trigger the drag, and then the drag automatically turns off at the next zero crossing. Now, when I say when I say 25% means wait for 7.5 milliseconds, that's a little incorrect. I wanted to simplify, hence I'm using, every half cycle is going to be 10 milliseconds, because every full cycle is 20 milliseconds. How is that 20 milliseconds? Because AC wave, the frequency is 50 hertz. So 1 by 50 is going to give you the number of, is the amount of time for each wave, which is 20 milliseconds. So from this zero to this zero, one cycle period is of 20 milliseconds for our Indian 50 hertz AC wave. So so each zero crossing is going to come at 10 milliseconds. So I give you a very simplistic calculation. Not necessary. This is how you calculate, the time, but this is a very simplistic calculation. Again, what are the effects of phase cut leading edge dimming? Let's discuss the pros. Oldest type of dimming before the days of microcontrollers and processors. So earlier tracks were the first types of dimming that actually came into picture. Track dimming was triggered using a DIAC, and DIAC was triggered using a variable resistor. So this is how basically a combination of resistor and a capacitor, which used to trigger the gate, DIAC, which used to trigger the track. This is what was used in analog circuits completely without microcontrollers. So you will find a lot of legacy dimming drivers to be of track dimming. Also, these days a lot of dimming drivers will be leading edge. Second is easier to implement due to properties of track to act as an off switch till triggered on by gate pulse. This is exactly what I was talking about. A track likes to remain off until and unless you trigger the gate pulse. You trigger the gate of the track. So it's the way you want to implement is after your time has elapsed after a zero crossing, you actually trigger the track. So it's very simple for a microcontroller to calculate that time and trigger your track. It's also cheaper to implement due to fewer driving components. At the same time, the components are cheaper. A track would be cheaper than your trailing edge component. So it's going to be cheaper, hence your drivers are cheaper. And hence also your dimmers are cheaper. And you'll find a dearth of leading edge drivers in the market because of obvious reasons. They're cheap, and they have been legacy. Now let's move on to what are the problems with leading edge dimmers. Leading edge dimmers are have high line harmonics. And what do you mean by line harmonics? Basically, when an AC wave passes through a perfect AC wave, sinusoidal AC wave, when it passes through your through any load, your noise created due to harmonics. There's a harmonics. So everyone must have studied, if you're an engineer, Fourier transform. So we used to always worry about what is this frequency domain, and all of us are very natural in thinking about the time domain. So we know how even this wave is a voltage versus a time graph, and it's very easy for us to follow. But there is another domain which is called a frequency domain. So if you see, this wave is moving at a 50 hertz frequency, and hence all the power of this wave that is getting transferred is at 50 hertz. So the dominant and the only harmonic that we see in frequency domain is at 50 hertz frequency. And this can get a little complicated. If you want me to cover this part of it a little later, I could cover that at the end of it. So in Fourier transform, in frequency domain, you don't see a wave from a time perspective. You see the wave in terms of what power that each wave carries at what frequency. And from if you remember your basics from Fourier transform, you would know that if you pass anything that is not a pure AC wave, you will find that harmonics are generated at different frequency at different frequencies. So 50 hertz, even though an AC moves at 50 hertz, if you chop it and if you make a chopped wave, which actually is not perfectly sinusoidal, but it is repeating itself, it's periodic, you will find that uh, there will be higher frequencies which will also be generated, waves of higher frequencies generated, and there will be certain non-zero power at those higher frequencies which will be put back onto the line. And this is what we call as line noise, which is created, usually created by your dimming drivers or drivers which are even for that matter, your inverters create a lot of line harmonics, because an inverter graph of AC is never smooth AC. They actually do a very stepwise AC creation from your DC. So yeah, you will have a lot of line harmonics due to phase cut leading edge. The driver pickoff. Now this is also called as the start, whether it's soft start or a hard start. I'll cover it in the trailing edge. Driver pickoff being very sudden can have degrading effects on loads or drivers if the inrush current is not mitigated. So if the driver is present and if your inrush is not mitigated, you will find suddenly your AC to be zero, and suddenly it is triggered to a certain voltage. So there is a certain rise in your voltage, and hence a certain rise in your current that is going to your load. Now this is called a hard start. Why is it called a hard start? Because it suddenly starts and you get the it's not ramping up from zero. It's actually suddenly reaching a certain non-zero voltage, and this can cause your loads to degrade because they are constantly getting hit by a non-zero starting of not smooth ramping of your voltage and current. And your drivers can then see a lot of high inrush current. Why? Because if I have to simply put, what is V equal to IR, hence I is equal to V by R. Now if your voltage is if your AC is ramping from zero, your current is going to ramp because your voltage V I equal to V by R. So when you have a V which starts from zero and smoothly goes up to 230 or 230 RMS and then comes back to zero, your current is also smoothly increasing and decreasing to RMS current is also increasing and decreasing down to from zero to zero. Whereas in leading edge, your current is suddenly rising in a very short period of time. So driver pickoff is sudden, and you may find high inrush currents or your load getting degraded. There's a high minimum load driving requirement. Now this is a point where you'll find a lot of text or a lot of content related to leading edge, talking about high minimum load driving requirement. Now we have done with our dimmers, we can dim. We have seen about 3 watts of load also getting dim. Yes, there is a certain dead period, dead percentage that the driver does not pick off, and that could be about 10% of your dimming percentage. So your pickoff, a pickoff is needs to be above, your dimming level needs to be about 10% for a pickoff to happen. Now a track is also a device that gets triggered not just by the gate, but it can also self-trigger itself, which is also called self-commuting, due to a high change in current on the line that it is attached to. What does that mean? You guys must have seen your manual regulators, which we change in steps. If you are moving from a first zero step to first step to second step, there's a step change in your voltage. At the same time, voltage step change also translates to a current step change. Now, this can cause some interference with your TVs. If you might have noticed, it's the easiest way to see is if you're watching TV and if your TV power circuit input is not mitigating a sudden rise in your uh, current in other parts of your line, you will see your TV flickering. At the same time, you will also see your drivers which are dim, they will also flicker, and you will see not an off flicker but you'll see an on flicker. That means if you have set 25% of your dimming on your dimmer, you will see that 25% going to 100% and then going back to zero. So you will see like a flash of light, and then your driver will come back to your dimming level. Now that happens because the track is not just getting triggered using the gate, it can also self trigger using the sudden change in current on your line. Which means, let's say your track is at 25% dimming and someone changed the regulator speed, fan speed manually, or even there are even if they have automation, step dimming, capacitive step dimming, and let's say a step comes at somewhere before between 0 and that 25% level or 70% of the time, you will see that it gets self commuted and you will see a full uh, higher wave getting conducted for that half cycle, whichever half cycle it got, it saw that high di by dt. So these are the cons with your leading edge dimmers. Now I'll move to a trailing edge dimmer. Your trailing edge dimmer is something that is implemented by a MOS or a MOSFET or an IGBT drive. So I'm calling it a FET drive, FET drive. Definitely, it is not as simple as one MOSFET. There is a MOSFET drive circuit that is supposed to take care of this trailing edge. And this is going to be slightly different. If I want to get 75% dimming, that means my light to be on at 75% level. Unlike your leading edge, wherein I have to wait just 25% and then trigger the track, here I need to wait 75% time after zero crossing and then switch off the FET driving circuit, which means that in your leading edge, you are triggering the track to turn on for the remaining part of half cycle. In your in your trailing edge, what you're doing is the AC wave is going to automatically start going to the load. You have to, it's not, nothing is automatic. You have to actually trigger your FET driving to turn on at zero, but you have to turn off the FET driving at a certain level that you want to dim it to. This is, it's like if you want 75% dimming level, you wait for 75% and then turn it off. This is something a little natural, natural to our minds to think. If I want 50% dimming level, I turn it on at zero crossing and I turn it off at 50%. It's a direct translation. Let's look at a 25% dimming level. So AC wave. So all that is hashed is your AC wave through the load. Now, if I want to do a 25% dimming, what would happen? I would have to start at 25%. I would have to trigger the FET drive at every zero crossing. And after 25% of the time has passed, I need to turn it off. So this is what, so the driving pulse of turning off will be coming at 25%. So remaining part of the half wave does not pass through to the load. And hence the power, only 25% of power after AC wave is going to the driver. And that 25% is translating into a 25% dimming level of an LED. So this is trailing edge dimming is implemented. It's slightly more complicated. Maybe let me say it's not slightly more. It's a lot more complicated than your leading edge. Reason being, you need to trigger the Fed drive twice, once at zero crossing and once after whatever dimming level you want or percentage you want. After that, you need to turn it off. So you need to also avoid the dead time. So let's say your Fed starts after zero crossing. After a certain time, your driving is little. Your harmonics will again come into picture, and you will find.
So what about the null spot that is going to create?
I'm sorry. Could you just repeat that?
The first two rows sound beautiful.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. What's the question again? Is there a question there? Okay. So I'll just move ahead. So the AC wave that you see through the load is actually the one that's hashed. Let's move to the pros and cons, right? So we'll find very low harmonics, line harmonics due to driver current pickoff, along with AC wave after zero crossing, which is also called as soft start. So what does soft start mean? Really is what you would see at trailing edge. So your driver will actually see, or your load will actually see your AC wave right from zero crossing, and it will see an off, coming after some time of the zero crossing. So the voltage will ramp up from zero across your load or across your driver. That's called a soft start, and that's the reason why your line harmonics are going to be really, really low. And why do I say low and not zero? Because there's a dead zone that can get created between your zero crossing and turning off of your MOSFET. So your MOSFET is not going to automatically trigger on at zero crossing. You will have to self trigger it, right? So as long as you're compensating for your capacitive and your inductive load lead and lags, your trailing edge is going to be operating perfectly. Lower minimum load driving requirement. And now what does this mean is that so for leading edge, you will find that minimum load that you need on a certain loop or your driver dimmer output needs to be somewhere upwards of 7 watts or 10 watts or something for it to see dimming. In this case, you see that even if your load for your that you connect on your dimmer is less, for example 3 watts, 5 watts, etc., you will find good dimming performance from a very low percentage on your loads. Future, we're likely to see more trailing edge drivers because now most of the lighting companies are advocating trailing edge drivers. Still, it's going to be driven by cost, but we will see more and more trailing edge drivers and also dimmers coming into the market. It's noiseless driving your inductive load. So for example, if you have an inductive load like your fan, and if you manage turning on your Fed drive at exactly zero crossing, you would be able to eliminate your humming sound from your fan. You would also this is also the noise in terms of AC noise, which is not that something that you can hear, will also be low, as we spoke in the first point. What are the cons? There is what are the problems? Driving circuit is complex. It's not easy. Driving logic is complex. It's not easy again. It needs to be triggered twice, the Fed drive, right? Also, a track and the driving components would be less expensive than a IGBT or a MOSFET, because when you're driving something at 230 volts RMS and with a higher current, 2 amperes, 3 amperes, your FETs start becoming quite costly. So if you want a good dimmer and a good driver, be ready to pay for that quality, but you will get a very, very smooth dimming performance. So those are basically the pros and cons of your trailing edge. Uh, now I wanted to move to, and this is going to be the last part of our presentation today, which is 010 or 110 analog voltage dimming. So how does it actually happen? There are sink and source type of drivers. So this is a driver. Again, this is a very simplistic uh, representation of a circuit. This is not how actually a circuit is. Here, in case of 010 and analog dimming, you will find that the driver will have line and neutral connections given directly. In terms of leading and lagging edge drivers or leading and trailing edge drivers, the neutral is looped to your driver, but your line or your load is coming from your dimmer. Here, what happens is your line and neutral are already given to the driver, and you are actually giving an analog value to your driver, and from the analog value it actually translates that to a dimming percentage, and that exactly gives as an output dim power for your LEDs connected to your driver. So let's say for example I want 25% dimming. So what happens in this case is there is in typically you will find many analog drivers to be sync type. Now what does it mean, sync type? What does it mean? So if you see, there is in the name of this dimming technology or driver, there is 0 to 10 volts written. And what does that mean? That your dimmer ideally is supposed to modulate uh, a voltage between 0 and 10 volts to your driver. So example, if your dimmer is modulating a 0 voltage, is giving a 0 voltage to a driver, your driver is going to turn off the load. If your dimmer modulates the DC value to your driver to be 10 volts, it's going to turn on the LED to maximum 100%. But if your dimmer modulates the value DC value to your driver to be 5 volts, your driver is going to exactly give a 50% dimming output. Now that is how your analog dimming happens. So your dimmer is actually modulating a voltage between 0 and 10 volts to your driver. Now, how does this happen? Do I have to create 10 volts in my dimmer and give it to the driver? There are some sync type of drivers that need that kind of driving, but mostly you'll find source type of drivers. What does it mean? That your driver is going to create a 10 volt signal, and it's going to give to your dimmer, and your dimmer is going to turn the convert the 10 volts to a value which is between 0 and 10 volts for dimming. What does that mean is that the dimmer needs to sync that 10 volts and the current coming through your driver. And if I turn this off, so I'll just turn on, I'll just enable the next part of the mm, graph. So if I turn on and off this transistor fast, so again I need to use PWM. If I turn this on and off very fast, and I keep a 10% or 25% duty cycle of on and 75% duty cycle off, what's going to happen is this A plus is going to be shorted to A minus, or it's going to be grounded about 25%, average 25% of the time. That means I'm going to see a 2.5 volt average at the input of the driver, and your driver is going to your driver is going to source the current, and your dimmer is going to sync the current, and your dimmer is going to short the analog plus to ground, very fast. And that's how and by using PWM, and that's how we see an average 2.5% modulated to a driver. Now, by changing duty cycle of PWM, the average voltage to the driver can be modulated, and hence the output power to LED dimming changes. Now, if I want to do 75% dimming, what happens? Basically, my pulse width of my dimmer is gonna has to be changed from 25% now to 75%. So it needs to stay on for 75%, and it needs to stay off for 25%. And average voltage that is modulated to the driver is 75%, and hence or 7.5 volts, and hence your output of your LED is dimming is also going to be 75% dimming. Now this is how a analog dimming typically works. You're not you're actually modulating a 0 to 10 volt signal or a 1 to 10 volt signal to your driver, and that is done by the dimmer. Now let's see the pros and cons. Pros for a analog dimming driver is that it's smooth dimming due to driver accepting high switching PWM input. Now what happens is that when you're switching your PWM at a very high frequency, let's say you're switching at a 1 kilohertz or 10 kilohertz, frequency, your average voltage going to your driver is smooth in terms of the output, because when you there is something known as Nyquist frequency. So when you are at 1 kilohertz and 10 kilohertz, you are way above the Nyquist frequency that your driver is actually working from internally. So your switching frequency is going to be very high in your dimmer, and hence you will see a very smooth dimming. You will see a change in voltage to be very smooth. Because the current is very less communicated between your dimmer and your driver, you need very thin core wires. So an advantage of analog dimming, 0-10 volts dimming over your phase cut dimming is that your core analog plus minus wires core is going to you need to pass a very low current, and hence your wire codes are going to be very thin. A very high signal to noise ratio, SNR, is high because you are doing a very high speed switching, and when you do a very high speed PWM and at 10 volts, it's not 3 volts or 3.3 volts or 5 volts, it's about 10 volts, you will see a high signal to noise ratio. Of course, it doesn't guarantee that it's not susceptible to any noise from external source. Also, you can have a little longer cables between your dimmers and your drivers, because your cables are going to have very low resistance drop, per 1,000 meters or per meter. So you can have a little longer cables, and your driver sources the voltage to the dimmer. So sinking type driver, like I said, so you don't have to create 10 volts. Your driver is going to create 10 volts, and your dimmer is going to modulate that 10 volts. What are the cons? In cases of multiple drivers, a multi-core cable would be needed. That means that if let's say you have 10 plus 20 plus drivers, each driver is going to need you to have 2 wires individually connected to those drivers. You can then, of course, short them somewhere and then bring only 2 wires to your dimmer, but you are needing 2 extra cables per driver. So that's where our cabling cost and cabling electrical layouts is going to be a little more complicated than your normal phase cut dimming. It's also recommended that there has to be some isolation between your power cables and signal cables. You can have some capacitive noise latching onto your signal wires. There are either your dimmer will have FETs, FETs, IGBTs, or you will have transistors that are going to be turning things on and off, and these can also, the FETs, MOSFETs can also be voltage control devices, which may get triggered because of capacitance between the 2 drain and source or gate and source. So it's better to isolate your signal and your power cables. So with this is the last slide of the presentation. This basically talks about what are the ideal applications. A leading edge dimmer, it's best for older and cheaper dimmers. few dimming circuits. I mean, if you have 4 or 5 dimming circuits on one, 4 or 5 leading edge dimmers on one circuit, you might have a lot of cross interference and noise coming from each driver to onto uh, the common loop, and hence you can have flickering or a lot of harmonics and build up and create this flickering of your lights. So dimmers may be good, but your drivers may be causing the issue. Trailing edge is high-end lighting dimming with many lighting loads. You can have multiple lighting loads on one circuit without worrying about the flickering effect or noise, cross noise between between different drivers. Of course, many of you might have better experience from the field. So once I get done, maybe feel free to share it. But dimming performance, where there is high-end dimming, you need a very low dimming percentage to be implemented. So dimming percentage, you can go down to very low levels, and you can set the mood very perfectly. If there are too many dimming circuits, try going for a trailing edge dimming or dimmers. And between generally 0-10 analog and 110 analog, typically these are used more of commercial dimming. And there is a very important point here. Many times you might find that you might lose a project because let's say your dimmer is your phase cut dimmer is only spec'd at 100 watts, and you might be disheartened because someone else has quoted 500 watts. So in the case where your dimmer, typically a dimmer goes anywhere between 100 watts to 300 watts easy, but some companies say 100 watts of dimming. And even in terms of implementation for leading edge, you say go do only 50%, do only 50 watts on one circuit. In the case where you have longer LED strips which have wattage upwards of 200, 300 and X amount of watts, you don't have to worry about then your dimmer controlling the wattage. Just use analog dimmers and have your lighting designer or your electrical team procure an analog dimming driver. Here the entire dimming wattage is dependent on your driver and not your dimmer. So this is a very critical difference between your phase cut and your analog dimmers. Your dimmers in phase cut are going to control the wattage, or are going to be or should be capable to handle the wattage that you want to pass on to your drivers, because the entire current is going to pass through your driving circuit. In analog dimming, your analog only analog value is passed on to your driver, and the entire wattage is directly handled by your drivers, and hence your dimmers may not be you don't have to worry about what wattage dimmers you have, as long as you have a certain specification of your wire length, and you have analog dimming drivers with your driver matching your LED strip. That should be good enough. So with that, I am done with the presentation, and I will open it up for questions. So hello. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible. You're audible.
Neil, hi. Quite informative it was, and good that was missing part. So Neil, I just have two questions. One is just a minute. So when we talk about a phase cut dimmer or a constant current dimmer, so we generally see there is a 200 watts, 500 watts mentioned on that. And when we talk about analog dimming, so does wattage matter? Because it is current rating what is given mentioned on that. It is 10 ampere, 16 ampere. So is there any limitation? So many light or so many ballast can be added to a particular channel or a circuit or something like that?
No, so basically your like I said, in terms of your phase cut drivers, why is so why is the wattage? So let me paraphrase your question. So you are saying that on face cut dimming drivers, there's a wattage written.
Neil, shall I just put it again once more?
Yes, yes. If you could just, yeah.
Yeah. So in face cut, so let's assume my dimmer is supporting 100 watts. So let's assume people talk we should load up to 25%, 30%, 40%. So
Mhm.
I know, okay, I can load up to 40 watts or 50 watts, for example.
Mhm.
But when I talk about the analog dimming technology, so
Mhm.
I'm not controlling the direct phase or the direct current from my dimmer.
Correct.
So I'm just passing on the values, 10
Hmm.
volt, 5 volts, everything.
Correct.
So how much loading can I do on a particular channel? So how do I come to know about that?
Okay. So your dimmer is going to, there are two things to it. One is a sourcing current that your driver can provide, which your
Okay.
dimmer is syncing. So your
Okay.
dimmer is going to sink certain current, and that's how it is going to, that's how the driver is going to come to know how much dimming it has to do. So if you connect 5 dimmers, and if your each dimmer is sourcing capable enough to source 10 milliamps of current,
So
your
you're talking about 5 drivers, right? Not
five
dimmers.
drivers
Five
connected on a
drivers.
single loop to your analog
Okay.
dimmer.
Dimmer.
Now your
Correct.
dimmer is going to sync 5 drivers of current that they are going to source, and that
Correct.
5 into, let's say each dimmer is going to source a 10 milliamps of current or 20 milliamps current. Your
Correct.
10 or 20 milliamps into 5 times is going to be synced by your driver. Now typically 100
Okay.
milliamps is a very small current for the components that are getting used inside the dimmer. So that's the reason
Okay.
why your dependence on your dimmers is very, very minimal when it comes to your analog dimming driver. The
Mm-hmm.
difference, the more careful part to look out for in terms of analog dimming is whether it's a sync type or a source type dimmer driver. Because if
Okay.
it's a source type, if your driver is sourcing, then your dimmer should be able to sync and modulate. Whereas if your driver is a sync type, that means your dimmer has to create 10 volts, and it has to be able to provide to the driver it's connected to. But
Okay.
you'll find
So
very
let's assume.
few. Yeah, go ahead.
So, for example, there's a driver and the input current what is required by the driver. So, current required by driver is 20 milliampere. So, by
Mm-hmm.
just calculating that way, I can come to a certain how much one channel can support my analog dimming.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Okay,
And
that's the
any
way of
other
doing it, right?
wattage, yeah, that's right. And any other wattage that is written on the driver is to do with the
Uh-huh.
output wattage, is not to do with the input wattage. This
Okay.
is a
So, I
very,
have to just look for
yeah,
the.
yeah.
Yeah, tell me. You're
Yeah.
telling me.
So this is very similar in certain ways to your daily drivers or something which are protocol-based drivers, which are taking
Okay.
a certain digital signal and converting that digital signal to a value that did modulate the line, power that they are have to give to the output.
Okay, so some manufacturers, like let's assume about Neos products. So if
Mhm.
I buy a face cut dimmer, some people are telling if it is 100 watt, you should load up to 25 and 30% of it. Some
Hmm.
people talk about 50% loading. So is
Correct.
there any particular ideology I can go to 100% as well?
No, so this is a learning that all of us have got from working with the manufacturers of drivers as well. So now we manufacture the automation products, dimmers,
Correct.
along with many other products. But there is a combination of the driver and the dimmer that gives you a perfect output. Now, typically, you'll find that the drivers, if they are connected, looped on one phase cut and let's say leading edge,
Mm-hmm.
and if you connect up to 80 watts of load or 100 watts of load, you might find that all these drivers simultaneously turning on and off can cause a lot of cross interference with each other. Hence, you might find this flickering happening. Now,
Okay.
why does this flickering happen? It happens because of the harmonics that are generated and put back onto the same line that all these drivers are being driven from.
Okay.
So I didn't get too much confidence that I was able to communicate to you from your tone. But what happens is when you're chopping an AC wave and giving to a driver, like I said, that harmonics are created because a pure AC is not passing on to your driver.
Correct.
So when 4 or 5 drivers are connected together or looped together on a phase cut and mostly in your leading edge, what happens is all these drivers are getting a driver is going to trigger the dimmer is going to trigger all your drivers simultaneously. But the drivers can individually, based on the inrush current or their input filter circuits, may trigger or may receive the signal at a slightly different points in time. And this point in time means it's a very small time difference. It's microseconds or milliseconds, not in milliseconds. It will be anywhere between some microseconds to up to a millisecond. Now that creates now, because you are suddenly turning on an AC wave across your driver, your harmonics are going to be very high. And because of high harmonics created by your drivers or seen by your drivers, your flickering effects can come into picture, because the same AC wave is getting fed back to the dimmer. Correct. Yes. So your neutral is getting looped. So imagine this to be a closed loop circuit, a line, load, and your neutral with a driver in the middle. So when you produce noise anywhere in the middle, all this noise is translated into the entire loop.
Okay, so for example, Neos product, if you're, let's assume your dimmer supports 100 watts, what do you recommend for Neos as a product we should load up to?
Typically, we recommend 50 watts.
For the 50% you're talking?
No, not 50%. Dimming, you can do anywhere from 0% to 100%. The amount of wattage.
Yeah, I'm talking if the dimmer is rated at 100 watts. Phase cut. So how much loading do you recommend? Loading in the sense how much lights or the wattage I should connect on that channel or the dimmer?
That's what I said. Typically up to 50 watts is a good amount of load you can connect onto the dimmer.
Okay. So,
but even if you connect 100 watts and it's a single, so again, the question is also a little to be answered differently. You can connect one load up to 300 watts or 100 watts also. If it's spec'd at 100 watts, you can connect one load up to 100 watts also. But the tricky part comes when you are looping your drivers.
Okay, got it.
That's the thing what I want to communicate. So if your one driver is creating harmonics or line noise, it's okay. But if your
multiple
is creating the adding up of all these things can create various different harmonics which can amplify your flickering.
Okay.
So we typically recommend higher better quality drivers, is because better quality drivers handle this filter the input noise also very well. They also have a slow they also have a less inrush current that they allow. So a lot of these sudden rise in voltage and currents are smoothed out at the driver level as well.
Okay, great. Neil, only a last question. So when we talk about analog dimming 0 to 10 and 1 to 10, so some manufacturers has 0 to 10 and some has 1 to 10. On 1 to 10, there is a relay also on the dimmer which switches off the load once it drops down to 1%. And when it is 0 to 10, there is no relay. So does that mean 1 to 10 is much better because it cuts off the current, and 0 to 10 keeps the current always on into the driver?
So when you're talking about a driver, you're basically so if you have a relay that is turning off your cutting off your driver, it's something that not necessarily it is better than your one which is 0 to 10. The reason being, you're not using too much power in your low. So your driver has two parts to your circuit, just like a dimmer. We have two parts to a circuit: low power circuit and a high power circuit. When you are actually giving a zero signal to your driver, your driver is going to switch off the high power to 0. It has its internal relay or switching mechanism that also switches it off. But your low power is going to stay on.
Got it.
So your driver low power is going to be consuming very less wattage, which is going to be anywhere between 20 milliwatts to about 100 milliwatts, and not more than that. So that's not too much of a current that, or sorry, not too much of a wattage that you are losing, or not too much of.
Okay, so so can I put it this way? Even if I'm doing 0 to 10, even if there is 100% like the electrical current is on, still there is an internal relay which is built inside the driver. So once it goes to 0%, it switches it off.
Yes. So see, there is either an IGBT or there is a MOSFET or some kind of DC switching device inside your driver, analog driver.
Okay.
So that if the command to it is 0, the current through it is also 0. So your high power current, where the current going to your LED is 0. Hence your only the control circuit of your driver is going to stay on. So it's not going to consume too much of power.
No, but the electrical current which is
go ahead.
No, but let's assume but the electrical current coming from the MCB is directly feeded to the driver, and there is plus and minus communication coming to my dimmer. So even if I do 0, but still my MCB is continuously giving supply to my driver, right?
That's what I said. So imagine your driver, in case of 0-10 driver, to be like your dimmer.
Correct.
Like your dimmer or any circuit, even your TV has a when you switch it off, not by the button but by your remote, or your AC also, when you switch it off by a remote, there is a microcontroller or a low power circuit which is on. Hence when you switch it on again, it actually turns on the screen, the other parts of the circuit, which is high power. So what I'm trying to say is that your driver also has two parts to it. One is a low power circuit and one is a high power circuit. So even if it is given line neutral directly, your low power circuit will stay on, your high power circuit will be off, because the command to it is 0. So your low power circuit is not going to consume more than 100 milliwatts of power. Yeah. Does that make sense?
So technically, even if there is no reason, if it is 0 to 10, it is okay. So internally, it will turn it off.
Yes, the high power circuit will turn off. The low power, inside it will also have low power, which will be on with not more than 100 milliwatts of power will be consumed in that low power. In many cases, it also goes down to microwatts of power, because internally it can also have a sleeping mechanism if it's designed.
Because same concept runs with DALI actually. So many people might also have the question, because even in DALI, the current is always on.
Correct.
Yeah, Neil. Thank you so much. It answers the question.
No problem. Is this possible? So Ganish has asked, is it possible for any LED trailing edge? So someone's what do you call it? Mic is unmuted. So okay, is it possible for any LED driver trailing edge? No, drivers are either trailing edge or leading edge, and there are some drivers which can handle both. You need to match your driver with the dimmer. So just be careful with that.
Sir, I want one question, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Sir, these dimmers are applicable to fan dimming?
Yes.
Which yeah, tell me, sir.
Both trailing edge and leading edge dimmers are compatible with fans. And with
fan dimming or lighting dimming, both are same dimmers are used.
Yes, both are same you can use, but if you use a leading edge to a fan, it will give you a humming sound because of the harmonics. And if you use a trailing edge, you will not get the humming sound because the harmonics won't come, because an AC starts, your driver or the fan starts seeing AC right from 0 crossing. So it rises smoothly from 0 to whatever non-zero.
One more question, sir. 0 to 1 volts or 1 to 10 volts, it is applicable only DC appliance or AC appliance also useful?
What's the question again? क्या सवाल क्या है?
0 to 1 volts, 3 types of dimming is used, sir. 0 to 10 volts, 1 to 10 volts.
110. 1 to 10.
This dimming is used to only AC appliance or DC appliance?
Okay, so question is that 0 to 10 volts or 1 to 10 volts dimming is applicable to what kind of appliances? So
Yes,
this
sir.
0 to 10 volts or 1 to 10 volts is giving to a driver,
Okay.
which is accepting 0 to 10 volts or 1 to 10 volts input. And typically these drivers are driving your
DC.
LEDs, DC, correct.
Yes.
So your driver is doing internal conversion between your AC to DC, and based on this input from a dimmer, they are controlling the DC output to the LEDs that are connected.
Okay, sir. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you, sir.
Someone has asked why we need multi-core wire. We can loop once to another. Yes, of course you can loop once to another, but I'm saying when there are multiple drivers, your if you have five analog 0 to 10 volt drivers, you will have 5 into 2 10 wires at least coming from your five drivers up to a point where you can loop them together. So you will need multiple wires versus at phase cut dimming. If there are five drivers, you will need five load wires going to them. That's it. In this case, you will need uh, per driver two, and then you can loop it somewhere, and then the number reduces after you loop it. Mangesh Babu has asked, do you see IP based system taking the lead in future? This question is a little off the track from the topic that I covered, so I'll skip this question. Uh, so yes. So, but you can, Mangesh Babu, please feel to ask me this question on my email or even on social media, so I can answer that later. Yesha Kansara, okay. Please send me the presentation. Okay, so Mangesh Babu, please share me the presentation. Abhinand Manoj. I have an issue with trailing edge dimmer. It came to notice that light fittings, trailing edge starts to flicker after 7 p.m. I'm not getting any solution for this issue, and this issue doesn't seem happen always. So problem is from dimmer or from driver end. My guess is the problem is neither from your dimmer nor from your driver. This since you have mentioned that it is after 7 p.m., it looks like your line, your phase which is coming to your home is having something that turns on after 7 p.m., a heavy load which is creating a lot of harmonics onto your general line and neutral, and that noise is translating through your circuit, through your home wiring. So just try and see. I'll tell you from our own example. There was a custom client that we done long time back in Lodha, near Wadala. When the building was getting constructed, there were a lot of heavy loads that were in the building because everyone was doing renovation. So a lot of lift work was going on, a lot of interior designing work was going on. Drills were used, heavy machinery was used. So whenever there would be a lot of these devices working together, the lights, without even dimming, without anything, the lights would just flicker through the entire building. So for at least a month or so, the client, we had to tell the client that it's nothing to do with the products. It's to do with your complete AC that is having noise from your entire building. So just verify what is happening at the site at 7 p.m. You will get your answer from there. Parag Khobrabade, how to minimize harmonic attenuation? So it's a good question. There are harmonic attenuators that you get that can reduce your harmonics. And second is try and use good quality dimmers and drivers. They will also attenuate your harmonics. When I say good quality dimmers and drivers, try and see if your dimmers and drivers are CE compliant or BIS compliant. Because when your product is compliant, your product has passed through a harmonics test. So in a harmonics test, what happens is the machine checks how much harmonics your product is creating. and based on how much harmonics your product is creating, if it is above the limit, it does not let you pass that test, so you don't get CE essentially. So,
Neil,
yeah.
In this same era, can this power factor make sense?
For
Power factor of driver.
Power factor of driver. Good question. So power factor of driver will control your lead and lag of your dimmer zero crossing. So if your power factor is way below 0.9, what's high probability that your dimmer is going to see a lag between the actual zero crossing of your voltage and actual zero crossing of your current. So if there is a lag between your voltage and current zero crossing, there's a high probability you're going to see a signal which is either uh, turns on if it's a trailing edge after a zero crossing after some time, or it's basically uh, uh, what do you call it? So the difference, so your lead and lag between a voltage and current is going to affect your timing of your dimmer control signals.
Okay.
And
Generally, people ask about what is the criteria to select a good phase cut driver. So, what is your experience and how do you rate it about? So, how we can select the good driver to loop more driver in one circuit for track dimming?
Okay. Typically, we have seen that drivers which are from a certain company. Example, I'll just take a company's name, Osram. So what happens is these drivers are expensive, but they are managing the power factor well. They are managing inrush current well. They are managing their own harmonics well. So for example, when you have harmonic filtering in your your driver is going to put back very less harmonics onto the neutral and neutral again. So if your output harmonics from your driver is going to be under the limit, typically your circuit is going to see very very less effect from negative effects from your driver. So then you can loop more drivers onto the same circuit. So typically it's mostly price equal to quality is something true, but suggestion is that take the driver as a sample, test multiple drivers in your own office and then deploy it at a customer. Do not cut corners or cut costs onto selecting good quality drivers. If your project is really good, even if your project is not high value, your customer is still going to have a problem if the light flickers. So typically,
yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Great.
Yeah, thanks, Praveen.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, Meghna.
Hello. Is this leading edge or trailing edge dimmer? Can we use this for curtain control?
Again, what's the question again, Meghna?
Curtain control.
Okay, so yeah, so Meghna, basically a curtain control needs the motor of the curtain. Inside the motor of the curtain, you are switching line and neutral.
Yeah.
Right. So your dimmers also handle 100% on. When your dimmer, if you're not using a dimmer for dimming, you can use it to actually switch on and off some load. So the dimmers are only going to switch your line. The output to on. If you put it at 100%, they will act like normal switches, full on, full out. Your motor of automation needs dual pole, and your dimmers are not capable to handle dual pole. Your dual pole is handled by relays, mechanical relays.
Okay.
So you can at the max turn something, make a curtain go full open or full close. But you cannot do any mid stop or anything of that sort. So just remember, if you're doing curtain control, the wattage of the curtain motor is also important. Typically, you use a relay and use a double pole relay so that you can switch your motor wiring.
Okay. Fine. What you are saying is This curtain control can be switched on through relay, not by dimmer.
Ideally, basically, like I said, it depends again on your curtain motor, how it is actually operating. So it depends on a couple of factors. One is your curtain motor power wattage should be lower than your dimmer wattage,
Oh.
right? Let's say your dimmer is at 100 watts, what do you call it, spec. Your curtain motor should be also consuming less than 100 watts, which is a little atypical situation. Most of the curtains operate at a little higher wattage than your 100 watts. Why? Because the curtain load is heavy. So typically you use relays which are of higher wattage. Now that's one thing. Second thing is you can use a dimmer which is rated at higher watts. Let's say you can use a dimmer which is rated at 300 watts. That can be used easily, not a problem. But if your driving of your curtain is to do with switching between two poles, so this I'm getting again. It might just sound a little too technical for other people. In a curtain motor, let's say a Songfei motor, you need to switch your line. You need to switch a wire inside the curtain from between line and neutral. It cannot be kept hanging open. In which case, you need to use you need to use a switch which has double pole with a common NONC common. That's why dimmer is only going to turn things on or off. It's not going to give a NONC common kind of a connection output.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, fine.
Yeah.
Got
yeah.
it.
Thank you. So, any more questions before we close the seminar?
This is Pratik.
Yeah, hi Pratik.
I just wanted to understand the interrelation between the LED fitting and the driver. So is it right that the driver, whichever technology we select, whether it is a trailing edge, leading edge, or a 0 to 10, 1 to 10, if we test that particular LED depending on the wattage it is given, is it possible like we can the LED fitting is independent of the driver, totally independent?
Okay, so question is that a driver which is connected to an LED fitting or a strip, what's the connection between them? Is that correct?
The question is that, so whenever we connect the dimmable driver to the LED fitting, so we generally test it beforehand before implementing it on the site.
Right.
So many times there is requirement from the client that you can just test it one driver with the fitting, and then maybe if this works, then whatever LED fitting we buy, it doesn't matter because the since the driver is compatible if your test pass.
Correct.
So that is their thinking.
Correct.
So is it true that the LED fitting is independent of the driver technology? If the driver is working well with our automation controller, so it can handle any fitting of that wattage?
It is absolutely not correct. It is basically, there is a very tight, what do you call it, the driver output. Now this comes to now dimmer and the driver is somewhere between, it's between the control circuitry and your driver. Now your question is to do with your driver and your fitting. And your driver has a certain output specifications. That means it can control, let's say, 60 output fitting rated at 12 volts 3 amperes or 60 volts 1 ampere or something of that sort. So there is a voltage and current combination that your driver output has with the fitting.
Okay.
Right. So if your dimmer works great with your driver, I think you have found the good dimmer company. You have found a good driver company, but that does not mean that your driver is going to work with every fitting, because every fitting which that you get, or LED strip for example, is always rated for a voltage versus current, voltage and a current. There are two combination specifications, and your LED driver output has to match that LED fitting specifications.
All right.
Right. And if you try to example, I'll go one step ahead and tell you, if you choose a driver which drives output, your fitting output, it drives of 60 volts, 1 ampere, and to that, if you connect an LED fitting of 24 volts, 3 ampere, it's your driver, sorry, your fitting is going to burn out.
No, but what if we match it to the same rating?
Yes, that's exactly what you need to do. You need to match your fitting rating to your driver output rating.
Okay.
This entire presentation was on between the dimmer output to your driver input.
I understood that.
Yeah, and yeah. So now you need to also match the other side of it.
Yeah, thanks.
Hi Neil, how are you?
I'm good. Go ahead.
Okay, I have two questions. One is we have sometimes seen that the same set of drivers from fairly reputed companies, they work well with a very reputed dimmer company, but they are not working well, like there might be some ghost behavior with another reputed company dimmers. So it's strange to understand that why two good dimmers are behaving differently for the same driver. What could be the probable reason?
Got it. The probable reason here happens with your dimming from your dimmer is based on a lot of timing factors. That means so I can go quite depth into technical side of it. So basically your dimmer is doing a timing based output to your driver. Second thing is if the timing starts missing out due to some zero cross missing, and how can a zero cross, so your dimmer, what is it doing? It's taking a zero cross input. Based on your zero cross, it is basing its timing of turning your track on and off, correct?
Yeah.
So if the track does not turn on exactly at the same time every half cycle, your dimmer is your driver is going to see flickering.
Okay.
Right. So now this can have multiple reasons to it. One is, like I said, your each deployment could be very different from each other. For example, you might be looping many drivers on one project versus fewer drivers on the other project. That could be one thing that causes different harmonics.
This question is mostly related to the testing. Like we order for 3-4 fixtures, and both same kind of dimmers, like universal dimmer for both companies. But for one company, the same 3-4 fixtures with the same drivers is working, and for the other company, it's not working. So are we doing?
Yeah. Correct. So it's if that's the case, then it's completely to do with your ability of your dimmer to filter out the input noise. So again, going a little technical, like I said, all perfect dimming is only achieved by perfect timing. And perfect timing can only be achieved if your zero crossing is detected perfectly. So what does that mean is that if your zero crossing is not detected perfectly because of some noise, so how does your dimmer detect a zero crossing? It will actually see a valley, your signal going below a certain voltage, and it will detect a zero crossing, give it to the microcontroller. Now, if there is some noise that is there on your input signal which is not filtered, your zero crossing signal to your microcontroller inside the dimmer is going to move in every half cycle, and that is going to basically cause your output of your dimmer to vary. Now that's the answer based on the input that you gave me, that really things are on your table, you just removed one dimmer and you connected the other dimmer. Now that's purely based on that. The company that you are probably using, which is showing a little bit of flickering, may not be doing a great job on the input filtering of the signal. Yeah, so that's the short and long answer.
Okay. The second question is why is the load bearing threshold more for trailing edge than leading edge So typically companies tell us that if it is a trailing edge, you can go up to 100 watt. Otherwise, you have to restrict yourself to 60 watt.
Why is the load bearing of trailing edge higher, right? So this is a great question that actually goes back to the presentation. That in a trailing edge, the way the driver is working is that it actually allows the AC to pass through your, the dimmer allows the AC to pass through your driver right from the zero crossing. So the voltage across your dimmer driver starts increasing smoothly right from the zero part of the wave, and then the wave is switched off by the dimmer. Now this is something that is called a soft start. What does when we start a car, we always start from first gear, then we go to second gear, third gear, fourth gear. That's correct. And if we want to stop the car, we just hit the brake or we leave the accelerator. This is exactly how a trailing edge works. Now imagine your leading edge driver. How does it work? If I accelerate my car and suddenly put my car into the first gear, suddenly my car is going to see a very jerky start. This is how a leading edge works. So what happens in both these cases is that your leading edge is going to see a very hard start, and a hard start causes a lot of harmonics. Versus a soft start, which is a trailing edge. Trailing edge, you see a very soft start, and then your dimmer turns it off, and then next half cycle again you will see a very smooth increase from 0 to again 230 volts, and then again your dimmer turns it off. So that's the reason why trailing edge dimmers are operating at a very at operating conditions which are very, very smoothly increasing across the driver.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. So I use the analogy with the car, and it is exactly how trailing edge and leading edge actually differ from each other. So trailing edge is always going to give you very low harmonics because almost perfect AC wave is being seen by the driver. So harmonics are not going to be put back onto your neutral, and your general noise inside your system is going to be created very, very low as compared to your leading edge.
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much.
Thank you. So I think it's any more questions? So I think it's 6:30. We've gone half an hour past our time. I think it was an really, really good session from me, as you guys were a great audience, and there were really, really good questions that were asked, and I hope we can continue engaging. My email address is on my presentation. I'll be sending a link inside our group, and you can either contact me personally, or you could also get in touch through social media, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys have. Thanks so much, and best of luck with all your projects, and hope you guys are safe and at home. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Neil.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you.